Today we're going to be going over some fantastic fragrance clones for the season of winter. I already did my top 10 winter designer fragrances video, covered those. I did a video basically essentially only focusing on strong performing winter scents as well, and a lot of those were designers too. But even some of those designers are expensive, and there are some more affordable alternatives out there. Also, some of those designers could be harder to find or even discontinued or whatever. There's also some affordable alternatives to those as well that we're going to be covering in this video. So essentially, this is my top 10 best clone fragrances for winter, starting now going into the beginning of 2024. If you're wanting to pick up some great clones that really offer a lot of bang for your buck and are considerably more affordable than the real deals out there, then you're going to want to look into some of these. And really the only way to get these clones is to shop through discounters. You can't walk into the stores and purchase these in person. So I'll link all of these up down below. If you shop over at FRAGFlex.com, you can use code CHAOS25, and that will be a buy one, get one 25% off code. That works site-wide. Any products that you can mix and match. It doesn't have to be buying two of the same bottle, for example. It could be on anything. So make sure you take advantage of that. And also, if there's anything rare, discontinued, or hard to find that you're on the lookout for, maybe it's some discontinued scents, maybe it's even some of these clones that oftentimes are sold out more often than not. If you jump on my mailing list and texting list, linked up down below, anytime something like that does come into stock, I do send out a notification, so you have your opportunity to get yours. All right. These aren't really in any particular order either. I'm just kind of going with it here. So all of these are really good, and I'll probably, list off or kind of make it known which ones are my absolute favorites. But again, it's hard to choose. They're all great. Fragrance World Reinheit Parfum, Fahrenheit Le Parfum clone. And so that Fahrenheit there is $110, $115, maybe $120, somewhere around in there on discounters. And it's a 75 ml bottle. It's a little bit tougher to find consistently in stock. And still, regardless of that, price point is going to be out of a lot of people's budget. This is around $40, so pretty considerable there. You can save a lot of money and get something that's very, very close. So it has suede, a lot of vanilla, some rum in here, and then of course that signature violet leaf accord, which gives it that kind of fresh ozonic smell. And so this is kind of the best of both worlds. It's a bit fresh, but then it has some sweetness and kind of a leathery undertone too, to just make it more suitable for wintertime. When it's cold out, this DNA really excels. It smells great, and it's kind of comforting too. So this next one here is a clone of a discontinued scent. And this certain discontinued scent here in particular was really highly regarded in the community. And that's kind of part of its downfall. Everybody loved it within the fragrance community, but didn't get quite the amount of love outside of it. And so ultimately that led to it being discontinued. But man, at this one's peak, and I don't know, is probably 2017, 18, maybe 2019, somewhere around in there, kind of at its peak before it got cut off. Everybody was talking about this and loving it. It was getting featured in a bunch of cooler weather videos. And so that one was 1 million Privé. This is Paris Corner Milano Privé. Pandora Scents, which is Paris Corner. I had to double check that, but yeah, Paris Corner, Pandora Scents, Milano Privé, 1 million Privé clone. It took them a while. There weren't really any other good alternatives to that discontinued scent until now. So it does have that cinnamon. It has some of the fruity apple, some of the sweet tonka vanilla in here. So you get some of that OG 1 million DNA, of course. But just the cinnamon kind of fruity fall time smell and myrrh that this one gives off just takes it to the next level. 1 million Privé was by far Paco Rabanne's best release within that 1 million line. And it might even be one of their best works ever. Like, it is really good. And even people who didn't like 1 million that much, and maybe some of the other scents in that line, even they could say that, yeah, 1 million Privé, now that's a good one. And so, like I said, for those reasons there, discussed prior, discontinued, has been for a while now, but this is one you can grab now. It's perfect for the cold weather. Kind of going from one rare scent to another here. So this one is, I don't think officially discontinued, but it could be kind of a limited edition, or kind of just because it's an exclusive edition, the availability is very limited here in the US. I don't know which one it is. I just know that it's hard to get. And so fortunately, this clone came out right at $40 as well. That gets you very close. So it is Fragrance World Moonlit Night. And if you could tell by the bottle, they even got the color down and everything. It is the one Luminous Night clone. So Luminous Night came out, again, exclusive edition, and immediately was a hit. You know, whoever was able to get their hands on it for the most part ended up really liking it. And it was hard to get, even from the very beginning when it first came out. You know, I really had to try to get mine, and finally got a bottle, of course, and then immediately loved it. And then unfortunately, it was hard to get since then, and so it's a little bit hard to recommend something to people when they can't buy it. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to feature it as much as I wanted to. I was able to work it in sometimes, and sometimes it would pop up on discounters, but few and far between. And by the way, that is one that I'm always on the hunt for as well, and it does pop up from time to time. I always notify about it when it does pop up on the mailing list. But regardless of that, if you don't want to raid around and you want to spend, you know, half the money, essentially, maybe even a bit less than half, go for this one. You're not going to regret it. Everybody knows Dior Homme Parfum. It's a huge hype monster. It's one that, again, suffers from the same availability issues, at least for us here in the US and Canada and maybe some other places as well, but just hard to get oftentimes. It has stabilized lately and it's been in stock more consistently. However, still not cheap. It's like $180 to $200 right now, somewhere around in there. If you want Dior Homme Parfum, but you just don't want to spend that much money, for about $37, maybe $40, you could get FOMO Parfums Gary's Den. So this was such a phenomenal idea and such a great release. For those who are unaware, the people over at Fragrance By launched this line of 3. So there's this one, there is a Fragheads Asylum and Illusion Noir or something. I can't remember the last one off the top of my head, but they're all great alternatives to much more expensive scents. A Fragheads Asylum, that one is a clone of Elysium, okay? And so similar deal, not a ton of Elysium inspirations out there. Elysium is not really the best fit for this video, but this one is because it hones in on that DHP DNA really well. You get a lot of that iris with some of the oud, some of the rose, a lot of leather in here. It is strong. And just like the Dior, this is also a powerhouse of a performer. Coming in at a true parfum concentration, this one's not going to let you down. Next up, we have Afnan 9 PM. So this one's been around for a while now, and most people probably know what this one is a clone of, but if not, it is an Ultra Male clone by Jean Paul Gaultier. That one's $80 to $100. This is around $40. So maybe not as drastic of a savings as some of the others, but it's still considerable. Instead of having pear, this one uses, I believe, like apple as the main fruit note there, but you're still getting a lot of the vanilla, cinnamon, lavender, all of that stuff. Still very much Ultra Male DNA, just with a little minor twist. But to be honest, it's not overly noticeable that they're not using that pear note here. Even though that is kind of what makes Ultra Male what it is, they still have so much sweetness packed behind this one that it's almost kind of even still smells like it has pear. And maybe it does. Maybe you pick up on it a little bit. They just don't list it. They list off apple instead. So who knows? Could go both ways. Still has that very sweet, overwhelming fruitiness, and then some of the warm kind of cinnamon spiciness as well. This DNA is great for fall and great for winter time too. You just need some cold weather behind it to help tone it down. And so if Ultra Male is a bit out of your budget, or you just want to stretch your dollar and invest in more things, go for 9 PM and you're going to save some money. Up next, we have a new clone release. This one just came out about a month ago or so, maybe a couple months ago. But immediately it was one where I tried it out and I'm like, yeah, this is good. And also going into it, I knew I was probably really going to like it. It's Kamra Kawa. Okay, so essentially it's this DNA, but with some coffee in here, some roasted coffee off the top that smells amazing. It's an impressive scent, especially that opening when you get that coffee right off the hand there. It is really, really good. It's a big head turner. And honestly, it puts some other of my coffee fragrances to shame. There's a lot of good ones out there, designer, niche, whatever. But it's a very specific roasted coffee beans accord in here that stands out and just really smells great. It's very realistic. And from there, you work into the signature Kamra dry down. Now, I will say this as well. I find this one to be a little bit more tame. The original is overwhelming, you know, and for a lot of people, it's just too much. And there are times for me where it is too much. You got to be in the mood to wear camera, you know. This one is a little bit easier to pull off in a wider variety of situations. And I think more people overall would find that they would like this one better. You know, just if you were to kind of poll everybody, the people wearing it and the people around you, this one might win. It's easier to wear. Great release. That's definitely worth checking out, and it's going to be perfect for winter. Next up, we have Insurrection 2 Wild, and this is going to be a clone of Xerjoff Naxos. And you guys know Naxos, it's, you know, retailing for around $250. You can generally expect to get it for a little bit below $200 on discounters. So nice little savings there. In the grand scheme of things, for a Xerjoff 100 milliliter bottle, that $250 retail price is nothing to, you know, get worked up about. That's pretty reasonable. That's cheaper than the retail of Parfums de Marly scents, you know, and so slightly less price per milliliter there, or, you know, slightly less bottle capacity, I guess is what I'm saying, and less price per mil, but, you know, you get what I'm saying. So Naxos, though, is still going to be out of people's budget, even if you can get it for $170, $180, $190, whatever. You can get this stuff for in the mid 30s to low 40s. And at that price point, it's really hard to go wrong with. It has that honey and tobacco and everything that you would see in Naxos, just at a more affordable price point. I know I just touched on Parfums de Marly there. They're a great brand, but they do have some high prices. And again, for a lot of people, it's just out of budget, especially this one in particular, PDM Carlisle. It's pricey, but instead you could go for Barouge Perlador, which is a PDM Carlisle clone. You know, Carlisle on discounters, if you're lucky, you're going to be paying, I don't know, $220, $230, $240, somewhere around in there. Whereas the regular PDMs like Leighton, Sedley, you could get for $180, $190. So it's always a little bit more expensive. This one here is, compared to other clones, a bit more expensive as well, but it plays out in a great way and it does hold its own. You're looking at about, I don't know, $60 for this. So again, when you're talking that price difference between this and Carlisle, it's still significant, but compared to some of these other clones, it's about double the price. So it kind of puts things into perspective. You're still saving money at the end of the day. And it's also not like they released this one, they're charging $60 for it or whatever it is, and then they just are giving you something with horrible quality that isn't all that good. This one is shockingly impressive. Yeah, like it really, when I tried it the first time, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely Carlisle. And it definitely has great quality. This is going to give these others a run for their money in terms of quality. Just saying that right here. Not to say that any of these are bad quality, because at the respective price points, they do a great job. But this one is kind of in a league of its own. Like, it's really good. Running down to the end, we have Paris Corner Cherry Cola, which is Mancera Tonka Cola. And Mancera Tonka Cola is another unique release, especially for the price point that it can be had at. Retails $180, normal discounter $105, something like that. Again, you could still save a lot of money and go for this, which is in the mid 30s to low 40s there. So you could buy a couple of these for the price of one and all of that stuff. So nice way to save. Not as drastic of a price difference, but still. And again, you know, this one smells fantastic. It does really have like a Coca-Cola fizzy, sweet, kind of spicy smell about it, which is something that has been done a little bit with things like Roja Creation E and things like Armani Code Profumo, which kind of gets compared to smelling like root beer. So there's some sweet scents that do have a little bit of a fizzy nature and all of that stuff, but this one still is kind of in its own category. It doesn't have the tobacco and the boozy notes like Creation E, and so that's kind of the difference between those. I would say Creation E overall is a bit more classy and more premium smelling as a whole. It just smells more expensive, and it is more expensive, considerably more expensive. I think that Tonka Cola / Cherry Cola is going to be more wearable to a wider variety of people, you know, and so it just, if you want to be able to get your money out of it, go this direction. Last up for this video, we have Tobacco Vanille by Pandora Scents, which is also a Paris Corner. So they're all over the board here. Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille cologne. It's literally in the title there, minus Tom Ford. And It's incredible. This is like $22, $25, probably about, I would say it's the cheapest clone in this video. And it is so similar to Tobacco Vanille. A nice, dusty, rich, but also syrupy vanilla with a lot of a powdery nature underneath. The tobacco in here is mild and not super earthy and overpowering, just like how it is in Tobacco Vanille. Just a nice, mild, creamy, sweet tobacco to go along with everything else. This smells like Christmas time. It really does. There's something about this one that smells like the holidays, and I love it. Tobacco Vanille is just out of reach for a lot of people. For a 50 ml bottle on discounters, you're up in the 200s, mid $200 range. That's insane. So go for this for 20 bucks. You're not going to regret it. Alrighty guys, that's it. Some of my best fragrance clones for the season of winter. I'll link them down below. And again, for anything rare, discontinued, or hard to find that you might be looking for, jump on my mailing list, texting list. You'll get squared away over there. You'll be the first to know. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.